Our Phi Beta Kappa speaker is Ralph E. Morrison. Ralph?
Those of you who know me are probably expecting me to open my speech with a yo mama joke, move on to a series of thought-provoking portmanteaus, and close with a heartwarming sounds like my prom night. I'm afraid I'm going to deviate from this expectation somewhat by doing it in reverse order. It might be difficult to work in all three of those and say something profound about our time at Williams, but hopefully we'll get through it in under 3 minutes. Sounds like my prom night. Now to the portmanteaus. A portmanteau is a word that combines two or more words into one. For instance, a meal that is both breakfast and lunch becomes brunch. If something is both fabulous and fantastic, it is fantabulous. Or if both squiggly and iffy, then squiffy. And a ferocious dinosaur that contemplates the meaning of life might be called a velociraptor. These words, which combine multiple terms into one, aren't too far off from what we've been doing for our 4 years at Williams. Between the diverse subjects we've studied and the plethora of extracurriculars in which we've participated, there are countless categories into which each one of us falls, and which each of us has had to somehow combine into a single coherent portmanteau'd whole. For instance, I'm undeniably a math person, but I'm also irrevocably a theater kid, not usually thought of as being two great tastes that taste great together. Among our graduating class exists virtually every possible combination of academic interests, artistic endeavors, athletic exploits, and extent of involvement in a cappella. Whether or not we want to admit it, and regardless of how often we've been told to think outside of them, these boxes exist, and we're all in a lot of them. The question now becomes what to do with these boxes. For an answer, we must look back 3.5 years to when I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed little frosh who ran around insisting that Williams' Latin motto should be changed to Amherst Fellat. And those of you that weren't raised by a classics professor can look it up when you get home. In the spring of my freshman year, my sweet mates and I were faced with the problem that tour groups, no doubt drawn to the inherent awesomeness of Sage C, really like to come through our common room, and they really like to do it really early in the morning. And frankly, having to maneuver your way to the shower wearing nothing but a towel through a crowd of prospectives and their parents is not the most enjoyable way to start the day. To ameliorate this issue, Matt Furlong, Hannah Cunningham, and I appropriated 3 large cardboard boxes from Sage Basement and began to construct a wall cutting across our common room in the hopes that this would dissuade tour groups from traversing our territory. However, as the night wore on, our creation evolved into an ever-increasingly anthropomorphic tower of boxes in the middle of our common room, complete with 2 eyes of Sauron, a printout of a cat's mouth, arms made of PVC pipe and gloves, a pocket protector made of duct tape, and, made from letters clipped from a magazine, a sign saying, "Your move, tourists." This entity, named Brian Cam, based on a name tag lent to us by Connor Cam, succeeded in deterring many a tour group. And when they were strong-willed enough to cross through anyway, it definitely weirded them out. By allowing these boxes to build off one another, we let Brian Cam become something far greater than the boxes would have been on their own. To me, this 6-foot-tall cardboard creation encapsulates the essence of our experience at Williams. Our liberal arts education has not been a 4-year-long delay on having to pick which box we wish to fall into. Nor was it a time of taking countless boxes and putting them in a blender, which would result in little more than awkwardly thick confetti. Instead, it was a time of learning how seemingly disparate passions and interests could not only coexist, but also reinforce and extend one another. My escapades into the theatrical and the thematical, if you will, have reinforced one another more times than I can count, whether I'm using theatrical flourishes and dramatic misdirection in proving that there are different sizes of infinity, or whether I'm trying to make rigorous Professor Kleiner's use of 0 divided by 0 in explaining Hamlet. There are inevitably times when we are reluctant to let 2 of our categories interact, simply because we think it's not typically done. But as the intimidating diva, if you will, Lady Gaga once said, "I'm obsessively opposed to the typical." And some of you might think that certain combinations are fundamentally impossible. Well, to quote Lady Gaga once again, rah rah ah ah, Roma, Roma ma, Gaga ooh la la, want your bad romance. That lyric is somewhat less pertinent, but the point is that our 4 years at Williams have left us better prepared than anyone to portmanteau our disparate interests, our disparists. Now, I'll be honest, it's going to be really nice to have a May with absolutely no snow. And I am looking forward to being able to say I go to Berkeley without anyone asking, oh, you mean Berkeley and Mary? But I will nevertheless remain forever grateful to Williams for showing us not only that our passions need not strike one another down, but that when they work in tandem, they become more powerful than we could possibly imagine. I'd like to leave you with 2 closing thoughts. First, lead a life portmanteau'd. One box is not enough, and only by letting these boxes build off one another can they attain their momentous potential, their momential. Second, and in keeping with the 3 things I said I'd include in my speech, Yo Mama is so fat, she went swimming in the Atlantic Ocean and Spain claimed her as part of the New World. Thank you.